KrakCast News is back. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for listening. Hey, before we jump into the news, don't forget to go to our site, KrakCast.pl. All of our back episodes are there, along with a donate button. So if you like what you hear, if you like what we're doing, please consider making a donation to support the show. Thank you very much. I'm here with Josh, Dr. Mike, and Dave. Talk about the news in the second week of December. We got to start with something. Every time we have a story like this, I hope it's the last one, and then another one comes up. How stupid is this? Last week on Amazon, not sure which site it was, if it was .com or one of the country sites, but a company selling Christmas ornaments featuring an image of Auschwitz put their products up on this site. It was taken down pretty quickly. All we can find now is screenshots from what was there, again, taken down very quickly. Guys, we've had variations of this story a few times. Remember a few months ago, I think we had a skirt, of all things, a skirt. With a mini skirt with the chimneys of one of the crematoria at Auschwitz, of all things. And now we've got a Christmas ornament with the barbed wire fences
They're
of
quite
Auschwitz.
chilling looking, to be
How
fair.
does this happen?
I don't know. I'm beginning to wonder, is this how, horrific anti-Semites signal each other, silently? I mean, you walk into one of their houses and they go, oh yeah, he's got those decorations.
It was also a bottle opener. One of the excuses proposed in the article is that perhaps this is just a website or a company that produces souvenirs en masse, and they just Google like random images from a given country area.
We've tried this generous interpretation before, but they keep popping up, these fucking things. I'm not having it. Now I have a new theory.
No, for the souvenirs, I can kind of accept that it's a possibility. I don't know if it's true or not. The skirts that we had a few months ago, no, that was a little more, skirts are designed.
These are horrific, man. These are chilling. I mean, I can actually see now, some big, bald neo-Nazi happily hanging these on his tree and having a great Christmas. Can we move on?
Our Savior was born.
Well, wait a second, though. I read up on this in a few places. And first of all, the company that posted these, judging from the name, appeared to be Chinese. Now, that doesn't excuse anything or explain anything exactly, but they may or may not be up on the latest sensitivities about this kind of thing. And also, it seems that they're using some kind of a automated bot. What they do is they randomly match things like Christmas ornaments or bottle openers or whatever with let's say they do a Google search for a certain subject, and the first 10 images that pop up are automatically matched to those products.
Yeah, but here's the
and then they just generate those and they go straight to Amazon. And this is what happens.
There's also assumingly some kind of stock sales algorithm at play here where they only reproduce the ones that sell. So my issue is who's buying these fucking things? Okay, because people buying them, I think they know what they're buying. Whether or not it's some faceless Chinese software deciding what to print here. It is still a bit of an issue for me. I think Amazon should take action and.
They did. They took it down.
Get everything out there. Yeah.
But it just this never-ending cycle of stories about either a journalist referring to Polish death camps, or Amazon or eBay or whatever, featuring some kind of ridiculous, common everyday item featuring an image of Auschwitz. This is going to happen every few months for the rest of our lives, I think. This is the impression I have now. That was your cue to agree with me or disagree.
No, I agree, and I think it's going to get to the point where people this is what everybody's afraid of, that if it isn't, there's no fight against it, that in like 50 or 100 years, the term Polish death camps or something like that would just stick as like a meme for the next 500 years.
I think, what's the connection to Poland with this?
With what?
Like with the decorations, weren't they? Was the reseller Polish or something?
No, but I think the same website also sold like Polish souvenirs, so like beer coasters and
and also like images. You could get like an ornament with like the town hall of Białystok, for example. Just the most random things.
Lumped in along with them too.
Yeah, just the most random things, and so that's why I think Auschwitz got put in there because, as you said, Dr. Mike, some kind of algorithm. I think somebody said it, Dave. Somebody said algorithm. They just kind of match these things, and it randomly got placed, and this is what happened. So I think it wasn't human error. It was just let's blame it on computers. Let's blame it on computers.
Taking over, so. Yeah.
It's true. It's their world. We just live in it. I don't know how to pivot to this next story. This, I don't know, totally different subject. But let's talk about supermarkets. And Tesco in particular. If you've been here in Poland for just a short time or a fairly short time, you might not know that, let's say 20 years ago, the dawn of the supermarket age in Poland was completely dominated by Tesco. totally dominated by Tesco.
I mean, if you weren't buying your cheap Christmas ornaments on Amazon, you were buying them at Tesco.
That's true, exactly.
At Tesco, yeah.
And for reasons that I never really understood, the country headquarters, the operations for all of Poland are based here in Krakow at their location on, what's it called, Kapalanka? Yeah, it's been Kapalanka. Administratively, all of Tesco Poland is run from there. But in the years since then, and as I said, about 20 years ago, Tesco has been passed by pretty much every other brand in the game, brands that you know, Biedronka, Lidl, Carrefour, Auchan, et cetera, et cetera. And Tesco, for different reasons, I don't know, they just never really found their footing, and their business model just wasn't right, and they've been facing serious financial difficulties for some time. And we learned this week that Barclays, the big bank in London, is taking offers on purchasing Tesco's Polish operations, which might mean the end of the brand name completely, finally, in Poland. Guys, what do you think about this news?
Well, I'd be amazed if they get a buyer, so I wouldn't say they're going anywhere just yet. They're going to scrape along until they're finally shot in the back of the head. The Polish operation's been a real drag on the Tesco group for a long time now. They really got beaten up on price by the discounters. There was a huge tactical error. They bought a huge chain called HIT, a German hypermarket group who had about 13 of these massive big box stores. And just as Tesco were expanding in Poland, they tried to expand a model that was popular in the UK, which is big box stores on the edge of town where you can get, discounts for buying in bulk. But nobody shops like that in Poland, and they'd already been in the market for many years. They should have realised that small and medium-sized shops, the German model, was
fundamental misunderstanding of the market.
It was really poor on their.
Apparently, they were planning to bring in those like Tesco Express stores, which would have been Biedronka or Żabka size.
A neighborhood store, yeah.
But that's when the financial crisis hit 2007-8, and decided, we'll wait a little while for it, and they made an error in not realizing that was the perfect moment to jump in.
Yeah, but it was also come on the back of about 4 or 5 years. They'd made a huge wave of massive acquisitions. It wasn't just HIT, they bought another supermarket group as well, so they expanded at the wrong time. They paid high prices for big box stores when they were already outdated. But let's just be clear on this, they never got it right in Poland. Tesco's here are known for being shitty supermarkets, dirty, they look cheap, everything's stacked unpleasantly.
I will give them credit for trying to innovate in a few ways. They were one of the first places to really allow me to order stuff online, and they bring it to my door. I tried it a few times and I never really used it.
But that was a margin killer. That was one of them decisions you make to keep turnover at a reasonable level, but it's actually a bad business decision. They had free delivery for years.
No, it wasn't free though.
Well, they tried
certain hours.
The delivery was ridiculously cheap from Tesco. If you get your food delivered in the UK or Ireland, it's expensive enough. It's not something that anyone would normally do. But again, it's not really the way Polish people like to grocery shop. They like to shop every day. They like to shop fresh. That's just the culture.
And I'll be honest, that's the same thing. I live in a small apartment, so I wasn't going to buy a month's supplies. And I realized it's just easier to go to the store downstairs or to the Biedronka, a 5-minute walk away. But another way they tried to innovate about 2-3 years ago, they allowed you to check out yourself, not the self-checkout, but you would actually have an app in the store, buy everything through the app, and just walk right out.
Yeah, I know, but
I like the idea, but
but they don't get the basics right. If you use their online ordering system, everyone used to get frustrated because half the stuff you order is out of stock nearly every time. It's just badly run.
You get an alternative or something.
And let's be clear about this: Tesco are, Ireland is, 3 groups that compete, kind of super value duns, and Tesco's about 25% of the market. Their stores are immaculate. They're beautiful. They're really nice, well run. They look the business, so people don't mind.
Aren't they the second largest retailer in the world behind Walmart?
They might well be. I'm not sure on that.
I think it's Carrefour actually now, but it might have been Tesco at one point, say 20 years ago. Yeah.
No, I think it was quite recently then, if it's not
right. Because I know. Famously Tesco had a go at America, didn't they? About sort of 15 years or so ago.
It was a disaster. They bought Whole Foods or something, didn't they? Yeah.
Total disaster. Yeah.
They're down to 6 locations in Krakow. There's the one on Kapalanka that I mentioned. There's one in Prokocim, which was the first location here. That's when they took over a HIT. There's one in Nowa Huta and a couple of smaller neighborhood stores. But with 6 stores, you run into scale problems, And is it worth it, really? I just think they've been kind of in retreat, as I said, for about a decade.
They kind of always were in retreat because this guy, Mariusz Świtalski, he started Biedronka and he built that up with a Portuguese holding company, Geronimo Holdings, and they ended up expanding massively.
Totally dominant here.
Well, he came from a logistics background. He's one of these entrepreneurs that had his hands in a lot of pies right from the fall of communism. He's one of these electronic resellers and he leveraged all that. Interesting guy. He started Żabka as well. And he just beat Tesco. Like, you know, the prices in Biedronka, these stores are everywhere in Poland. They're nowhere in Portugal, by the way. You never see a Biedronka in Portugal. It's just the Portuguese.
They have a chain of stores there, just different name.
Different brand, okay, yeah. I stand corrected. But anyway, what people really wanted was actually a smaller amount of choice. Yeah, they wanted quality Polish products at really good margins, low prices, and special offers on things, on brands that they found recognisable in the old centre aisle thing where you can get everything from, you know, a new golf club to an umbrella.
You have basically everything you need in like a 2-minute walk. Plus, one of the things that Biedronka apparently does when it comes to fresh produce is they buy out everything locally. Mm-hmm. So then other store chains have to like source their things further out, which increases prices. That makes it more harder for them to compete.
Machiavellian.
Yeah. But it goes also to the demographics of Poland, which Tesco didn't fully understand, that there's an awful lot of heavily populated countryside and little towns with quite vibrant kind of economies. You know, like we've covered a few times, it's not just big cities in Poland. There's quite an even spread of population across the country. And the Biedronkas in the sticks are all very well placed. They're all just in the right spot. You know, everyone can drive to them easily, get their groceries, get in and get out nice and quick.
They have they're one of these kind of companies that have it's almost a cast iron rule that there will be car parking facilities at every store. I think, of course, the exception is that there's a Biedronka on the Rynek here in Poland, in Krakow, which doesn't have
that's right, there is
an adjacent car park. But all other Biedronkas have car parking.
Yeah.
Convenience. Well, if you're a longtime resident of Krakow, as I said, the fall of Tesco from totally dominant to their current state is just a very strange and amazing story. We'll see what happens. Moving on to something else we talked about, but a long time ago, the idea of a metro or a subway or a tube or whatever you want to call it in Krakow is something that has been in the news for probably 10 years or more, simply will not go away. It was back in the news this week because we learned that the Conservator, which is something we've also discussed previously on our show, that the Conservator is an office of the government responsible for kind of preserving the social, cultural, historic, architectural heritage of the city. The Conservator says that they will not agree for a possible metro stop to be built in an area they were looking at. Is basically in the area of Bagatella, the beginning of Karmelitska, right there by the Plante. They said they would not agree to that. And they would also not agree to a metro stop at Rondo Mogilska either. And of course, you know, the point of a metro is, you know, bringing people to or through the center of town and without a stop. I don't know how that works. So
you just have to jump, I guess.
This calls into question the entire project. And this comes, by the way, just about a year after the city spent about 10 million zlotys on another feasibility study on the idea of a metro. So this opinion,
which we still haven't seen, right?
Yeah, we're still waiting on that. I think it's
come out the end of the year here.
Really?
Weeks away.
Okay.
So basically, 10 million zloty has been spent on this, 9.5 million zloty, and the Conservator. This is the ultimate bucket of cold piss. Now, this idea is dead. Like, I mean, as soon as I read this article, I was like, oh God, I was so embarrassed to even vaguely support.
Did nobody think about consulting the Conservator before they spent 10 million zlotys?
It's so obvious that Krakow's not right for an underground system. Like, I kind of only even vaguely supported to irritate you. You were so annoyed about it. But
we do not need a metro, people.
I did support the idea of a feasibility study to see once and for all, because it's been a constant political hot potato.
People voted for it in a referendum in 2014 that they want it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think there's a clue in the first syllable of feasibility.
I should clarify. It's not that we don't need it. It's just that the expense and the practical aspect of it doesn't match a city of our size. It just doesn't work.
If it was here, it's just not cost effective.
Yeah, if it just, I mean, you know, if the EU, if Brussels wants to just donate it, hey, fine, I guess we'll take it. But otherwise, it makes no financial or practical sense.
Yeah, especially if places like Mogilska are out for a stop. That was my assumption, that they'd stop at the Rondos on the edge of the city, and then it'd be a fairly easy shot into the city centre. Obviously, I never expected stations under Rennick or anything.
Yeah.
But if they can't go under the likes of Rondo Mogilska, then this idea is dead in the water, really.
The only place I can think of in the centre of town, like the center of town, is the open plaza in front of the old train station, in front of Galeria Krakowska. I don't know why that can't work. Is there any other place? Plac Szczepański?
But still, you've got to go through and off. You've got to to undermine an awful lot of historical foundations to get there. You know, you're going.
How deep? Anybody know how deep is a metro? How far under the
that
ground?
can vary
Depends
hugely
on the ground, the bedrock.
Yeah, I mean, like the New York subway is kind of this what is it, like kind of cut and cover method, isn't it? So it's like very, very shallow, and then they just put the road service on the top of it. Whereas
not the new part of it.
That's what they want to do
though.
all around the Rondo Mogilskie and Lubitz is the cut and cover aspect, you know, where it's just really shallow.
But I mean, parts of the London Underground. I mean, incredibly. You know, some of it is cut and cover, but some of it is tunnelled and really, really deep. I think Hampstead is the deepest tube station.
And the objection is we're going to disturb something that may or may not be there. We don't even know why we can't dig it. Just architectural reasons. Just
now you're for a metro, are you?
No, I'm just.
First he was against it. Now he's for it.
I'm just asking why we can't dig. You know, think about Athens. Think about Cairo. Think about Rome. They have these issues, and they somehow managed to make it work.
Yeah, Cairo's well known for its underground system.
Why? Well, okay, but construction generally. Why?
It was a pyramid.
Okay, bad example.
I've been to Cairo.
Whatever.
If you've seen Cairo, you would not say
Why
that.
is it that suddenly Krakow is untouchable under the old town?
Right, okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, but I suppose for the reason why I don't know. Look, if it's going to be cut and cover,
Excellent point, well made, Dave.
it's going to be cut and cover low level, which is obviously the issue. They obviously can't go really deep for some reason. That would be even more expensive. I don't know.
For me, the Conservator will always say no to these kind of projects because if they agree to something and something goes wrong, it's on them. If they say no, well, they're not responsible for everything that goes wrong because nothing will happen then.
I think we've discovered the way to get people like yourselves on board with the idea of a metro is to get the Conservator, which Mike's well-established dislike of, has now made him support progress. Damn you, Conservator. Back
I think
up.
it was last month that we were talking about this Angel Stratum development, and the Conservator came in and said, you have to stop the work. I think since then the developer said, yeah, fuck you, we're going to continue anyway. But we talked about how the Conservator has a de facto veto power over everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And I don't know, what if you get a person in the job who's just irrationally dedicated to preserving the city as it is right now forever?
Can I just say one thing? The argument makes no sense. This city has had a powerful, strong Conservator for the last 15, 20 years when it has completely transformed with a mixture of restoration and modern building works and infrastructure.
All outside the centre of town.
The city Conservator of Krakow has done a great job over the last 20 years.
Dr. Mike, help me.
I really can't side with you, Dave. I think there's a lot of projects that have been stopped and blocked. Cost have skyrocketed. Yes, some historical landmarks need to be protected, of course, but if you just have a building rotting for decades, like the Skeletor, because that's everything that was blocked forever. Because,
Hotel Forum, yeah.
Because no, we can't let you tear it down. We can't let you build it up higher. Yeah.
Why? Because
it's going to ruin the view of the cityscape. It's like, what cityscape?
It's one of them things. It's like Mike all right, okay, I'm not saying every Conservator was a rock star, got every decision right, and I'm not saying Mikrovsky's a good mayor, but I'm just saying in the time I've lived here, this city's progressed an awful lot, and some credit has to go to the people who plan and authorise works and buildings in the city, because Krakow is a fucking beautiful place.
Can we get you on record, Dave, as being against a metro now?
Yes, I'm going on the record and saying that I still would like to see the feasibility study, which has been a long time coming, because there might be some suggestions of single lines that could hugely alleviate future traffic problems down some of the main corridors into town. I'm ditching it as an all-over solution, like, a proper metro covering everything, although it would be awesome.
Let's turn for a minute to unfortunately, some tragic news that made national headlines just a couple of days ago in the small town of Szczyrk, if I'm saying that correctly, Szczyrk, just south of Bielsko-Biała in the mountain region. A gas explosion killed 8 people, including 4 children. Details still coming out about the causes of it, but apparently, based on what we know now, somebody was drilling or somehow, physically damaging the gas line. Dave, you happen to know something about this. How do gas explosions happen like this?
Well, there's not really enough details out about this because it was a pierced gas line. It doesn't explain, where the explosive spark came from, how the actual explosion was generated. And, it seems to be a shocking indictment of the local standards that somebody was allowed to drill over a mains gas line. I mean, there are procedures in place to prevent that happening. But, there's so little details about this. I mean, we just have to say it was an absolute tragedy.
Do you know if the heat and the friction generated by a drill, is that enough to provide the spark to ignite gas? Could it be?
As I said, I'd like to see some more details on all this, because what would confuse me then is where did the explosion originate? You know.
Naive question. I'm not trying to make light of anything here. Naive question. Is a gas explosion? Does it involve?
The classic way
flaming fire, or is it just the force of an explosion?
Classic way it happens is a small gas leak builds up in a closed room, and when it gets over 20%, then any spark will ignite the whole thing. But there's a variety of ways it can happen.
But is the gas burned away immediately?
The issue about a mains line is it's pressurized. So there is an awful lot of factors we can't talk about yet. So when there's some details, we can go back to it and maybe discuss the causes of the explosion and how they could be prevented in future, which is the important point.
Moving on to something else here. This week saw the return of literally tons and tons of gold to Poland from the UK, Dave. Tell us why the gold was there and why it coming back is kind of a big deal.
Well, we covered this at the time, right? About a year ago.
Yeah.
It was mooted. I like that word. That they bring back home their gold. Why not? It seems to be a strangely optic-based kind of political exercise. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, they could trade on this gold. It was still Poland's gold when it was held in bank vaults. And did they come in two loads? Wasn't it? They took the gold home from New York as well, New York and London, or the New York bit is yet to happen?
No, I think the everything that was in London was
Canada,
all of foreign gold was consolidated in London decades ago, because it was like they had gold in London and New York and then somewhere in Canada, I think in Ontario.
Yeah,
but over years it was all pulled together all into the reserves in London.
All the Polish gold was in London. Okay, so I mean the big winners here are G4S, who obviously made millions transporting this. I mean, can you imagine the costs with the weight of gold? Give us the numbers, John. How many bars did they take? 8,000 bars or something, was it?
How many tons was it again, Dr. Mike?
Much more bars than in Krakow.
No, it was 8,000 bars, and I knew it was 8 flights or 8...
over 100 tons.
Yeah. There must be a standard size for a bar, right? In terms of,
it's called an ingot, isn't it?
But in terms of ounces or whatever, the pound.
Yeah, it's stupidly heavy.
There are different types of bar size, but I think like the one that everybody sees in movies, like the brick kind of size ones, I think it's like close to 25 kilos or something, isn't it?
12.4 kilograms.
Okay.
Dr. Mike, how does, if your currency is not based on the gold standard, and most of them are not, how does physically having gold help your economy?
Well, first of all, it's a psychological factor. So like people think that their currency, that their country, their national bank has gold, it calms them down. The idea also with holding gold is that if there's something going on with your currency, you can sell some of your gold to buy some of your own currency to hedge its value for.
And it's a good investment. It's a safe haven asset. Whenever the world economy is in trouble, people pour money into gold because it's considered safe. But yeah, the oldest question in the world is, what's gold actually for? I mean, we love it, but it essentially holds absolutely no
very
value.
Little intrinsic value. I mean, it's used in electronics here and there, but nowhere to the point where it's as valuable as
dentistry
kind of we give it to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess its significant advantage as an element is that it's inert and it doesn't oxidize. It's non-toxic.
So you can put it in your mouth.
Yeah. Okay, gold has some game. Sorry.
All right, in the time we have left, let's run through a handful of smaller stories here.
I just want to dwell on why this story is so big around the world. I mean, it was picked up by every major outlet in the world. Is it just the kind of heisty element we were all secretly hoping someone would have a crack at robbing it?
I mean, the history of this gold, how it got to London, is fascinating.
Is there a Nazi aspect?
Well, yeah. This gold was moved out of the country at the beginning of World War II.
There you go.
They had to evacuate. It went through Romania, went through Africa, it went to France, and went to Africa as well when France was occupied. Several shipments, going around the world, then to the U.S., to Canada, to London. When you listen to this story, it's like just the movement of the gold sounds like a fantastic plot for a movie to begin with, and now it's all coming home and kind of in a way, and the government is really using this as the optics of this stuff that was we had to evacuate decades ago because we were invaded. It's finally coming back to us.
Potentially box office gold then.
Boom.
Any idea why it took this long to get back to Poland?
Because it didn't really matter where it was.
Exactly.
The gold costs money just to hold.
Let's let the UK pay for it.
No, I mean it's like Poland was still paying for that gold to be held there. Now they're going to pay because they still have to have the infrastructure and vaults and security here, plus all the costs involved with bringing it over. There's always that psychological factor, if your gold of your nation is somewhere else and your relations with that other country go south or something happens, it's not the same as actually having, you know what they say, like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, something like that. It's one of those.
Where are you going with that?
Is this like a Brexit issue then? Kind of a fear that like Britain out the
taking back control, taking back the gold.
So there's going to be some like a Fort Knox ski here in Poland now.
No, dude, a ski joke. Really, you're better than that.
No, okay, all right, fine. Now
Possibly
let's
the first
run
one
through.
we made.
Yeah, I mean, 200 episodes, and he finally goes.
Now
there.
let's run through a couple of small stories here before we finish up. We learned this week the 2020 Krakow city budget, 6.6 billion. That's billion with a B. Zlotys.
Holding the picky up to my lip.
2/3 of it raised locally, about a third of it from Warsaw. Guys, that's a lot of money.
Now that's a heist right there. Well, and it's an increase of what, like 11% over last year.
Yeah, it's a lot too.
But they're also increasing the deficit because it's 6.6 is the budget, but the city's only bringing in 6.2, which is more than they brought in last year. So they decided, like, let's overspend even more than we did last year.
And a lot of that money is stuff like 500 plus, which is funded by Warsaw but administered by the local government.
Yeah, it's like about 2 billion of that comes from the federal, not federal, from the central government, but it's like distributed right away. So the city really doesn't have much say. So the actual money the local government has to spend on its own is about 4 or so billion, and that's going to apparently they're increasing like investments in green spaces, but they want to cut down on spending on like infrastructure in the sense of like paving roads, picking up trash.
So this is also they can spend more money on the Wisła Stadium, which we'll talk about maybe next week, but they're pouring more money into that bottomless pit. Well, moving on.
445 million is a very, very manageable deficit for
it is.
Yeah, but it's every year. And it's like they increased the amount of money they're bringing in from last year, but they've also increased the amount of money they're overspending past what they're bringing in.
Money is cheap, Mike.
That's what governments do.
Interest rates are low, unfortunately. So
that's why they're doing it now. It's better to invest when money is cheap.
Moving on, Skeletor on Rondo Mogilska, been a icon.
Sorry, Johnny, this is the second time you've made this. Rondo Mogilski.
Rondo Mogilski?
Yeah, Ulica
I guess it is. Yeah, whatever. Thank you, Professor. Rondo Mogilski. Work is progressing very quickly on what's called Unity Center. Unity Center,
a cultural place.
It's going to have the usual office space and upscale shopping and nice hotel and a restaurant on top. I can see it from the window of my place, actually. Don't have a fixed date for the grand opening. I think they're looking about a year from now, roughly end of 2020. Looking forward to seeing what everything is going to look like there, Dr. Mike.
I'm curious. I mean, the restaurant on the top there, it sounds like a great place for like a date night. You see the whole city, and apparently, I'm guessing this restaurant won't be a McDonald's or something like that.
Look at the balloon at kind of like...
The new facade is really classy. I really like it.
Is,
It's reminiscent of an old kind of limestone skim, like from the old, say 30s, 40s buildings in New York. I like it.
It's fortunately, it's not just steel and glass or anything boring like that. Yeah, they actually tried to bring in some kind of design.
I can see it from my office in work. It's quite cool watching it kind of, creep up. The skyline of Krakow is about to be treated.
The Ukrainian consulate is just at the base of it, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It is.
I'll tell you something, though. It was a bloody eyesore, Skeletor. Like, don't give me any of this, like, preservation. I know I was praising the city Conservator earlier. Now,
that was 5 minutes ago. This is now.
Let me take my baseball bat out and say that was one of his few faults. Well, unlike you, John, I'm capable of admiring something without liking every one of its parts, like the EU.
Ooh.
Yeah, but the main reasons it was like that for so many years because every project or proposal that was presented, the Conservator said no.
No, you're right. I'll give you that one. But they finally look what they've greenlit. It looks class. It's a whole plaza. There's a hotel. There's other office buildings. So yet again, maybe they were too slow for you, Mikey. But they said the same thing about Galeria Krakowska. They got that right as well.
And apparently, Dave, they will have no problem renting out all the office space.
Oh my God, this was a big shock. Every floor is the companies are fighting to get this office space. It's seen as really appealing to the companies because of the transport links, because it's so close to the city centre, and people were worried that the demand for commercial space would start to lag in Krakow because there's been so many new builds and all the ones coming online at the train station as well. But it seems actually all companies want at least one floor each, and they're fighting to get in. So
I can remember 20 years ago when
a lot of jobs horse coming to Krakow?
When Lubitsch 19, Lubitsch 21, whatever.
19, yeah.
19. It was the only Class A office space in the entire city, and it was only about half full. And now, High Five by the train station, all those places on Army Krajowy, all the places they built here on, what's the street called?
You do the geography, John.
Kostumatech, what's it called? Just down from Ice. What's that road that goes from...
Bonarka?
Kamienskiego, or whatever it is.
There's loads out Bonarka as well.
And around Bonarka and Alejo Pokoju, and it's just like they're everywhere. And so now there's a surplus. Actually, it's not a surplus because they're all full. But anyway, they're all over the place. And I'm sure that Unity Center is going to be quite nice when it opens. One more thing. Let's talk about
each one of those
actually 2 more things.
Sorry, just like to say, each one of those new buildings represents thousands of new jobs.
That's right.
Good jobs.
That's right.
People don't open coal factories in those buildings, obviously.
Excellent jobs for good Polish people.
The best jobs.
Brush up on your language skills, people, because they'll be needed.
Horse races proposed for Błonia, the big park on the west side of town.
I love this story. This is so great. This is so great. They should put a horse track in the Błonia. I think it's the best idea in the history of ideas. I really do.
For some reason, there's a government mandate to breed and raise horses in Poland, and there's been several
copying the Irish.
Yeah, and notable horse racing, selling things going on in Poland for decades, which I don't understand why this is a government thing.
I should step in here as the man from Ireland, which has the most valuable bloodstock national program in the world, and let me just say I know absolutely fuck all about horses.
Yeah, but
continue.
But there's a national program.
So you interrupted Dr. Mike to say I know nothing about this. I can't contribute. Go on.
It was irony, John.
Oh, gotcha.
There's a national
that's what you
program
call
as well
it.
In Poland, state-sponsored national program in Poland to raise horses, and they want to spread it out. One of the ideas is to actually have races and a market here in Krakow, and the city will lend out the space and assist in the actual setting it all up, not paying too much into it, which is, I guess, a plus. But I'm just thinking, have you ever walked through Błonia? I try not to break my leg every time I go there or not step in dog
uneven.
shit.
And,
Saw the idea of horses racing at full gallop down the Błonia. I'm just thinking,
I just assume they're a prepared track.
Yeah,
not
exactly,
just
Mike. You're not visualizing this right. A beautiful racetrack with lots of lovely grandstands.
Horses break their legs pretty easily, I think.
Where's your obsession? You love animals,
on Błonia as it exists now.
Everything.
Yeah, they would all die.
I knew you were going to bring up broken legs and horse racing. You have a real thing for horses.
And also, when you set up horse racing, isn't gambling one step behind horse racing?
No, but it's actually one of the articles they even mentioned that it's a noble type of gambling.
Whatever. A noble type of gambling. What does that mean?
The Irish government,
it's the sport of kings. Isn't
the Irish government spends about 40 million a year subsidising prizes at race events because that's the only reason people go to see the races is to bet on them.
And wear the hats.
Yeah. A day at the races now, I've only done it once or twice, but it's a hell of a day out. If it's done right, it could be a massive asset to the city. Yeah, it's never going to happen. I'll believe
this when I see it. This is one of those things. It would be cool, but I'll believe it when I see it.
In Australia, when the horses come, it's basically a national day of getting completely wasted. So
we should say that the city in the 19th century did have a racetrack on the Błonia, which is where this idea originates from, the Viennese era.
Because I can see, there's surely a kind of combined element here where we could have kind of horse and carriage racing, to kind of they toddle down from the Rynek and then do a couple of laps of Błonia, maybe with paying tourists on board. I don't know. Do you think that's going to...
I have no idea if you're joking now or not. What the hell's going on?
Last thing, bit of a downer. God, why is this last thing? As we head into the holiday season, news this week that an organization that was trying to get some presents, some packages to some Polish people in the Ukraine, Dr. Mike, had a bit of a problem getting things across the border.
Yes, because as we just a few days ago, we had Świętego Mikołaja, the 6th of December, St. Nicholas Day. In Poland, that's the day when Santa Claus brings presents to children. Usually candy, small things, chocolates, sweets. And for the last 28 years...
Tips on horse races.
And for the last 28 years, a charity out of Tarnów has been sending these kind of packages with candy and gifts and sweets to Polish children in Ukraine around Lvov. This year, the border customs officials said no. It's this is contraband. This is illegal.
Contraband.
You can even, I can kind of see that, they never figured out the legal work. They would just drive through the border without thinking about it. And all of a sudden they had 600 packages of toys and sweets that might have looked a little suspicious. And the customs officials were fill out declaration forms.
You think they were just waiting for some encouragement to let things move forward?
It's
or what?
If St. Nick is visiting those kids, maybe he'd like to visit us as well. It's
I can add something to this. This is, unfortunately, I'm kind of familiar with this problem. Long story short, I don't have to get into the details, but I used to have some friends who were monks in a church that's just around the corner from where we're sitting right now.
Tell us the story, John.
Just around the corner from where we're sitting right now, there's the St. Catherine's Church here in Kazimierz. I knew the proboszcz, I think it's called in Polish, and some of the monks there, and they had a charity that helped needy people in the Ukraine, orphanage, as a matter of fact. I mean, you couldn't get any more, more pulling on the heartstrings than that. Anyway, and they were gathering various supplies for the kids in the orphanage, and they had to stop because the guards on the Ukrainian border were demanding, more and more bribes, cash, to let the things go through to orphanages in their country. I mean, how pathetic is that? Come on, Ukraine, get it together.
A second basket around in church, and this collection now is for the
horrible
customs officials in Ukraine.
Horrible. So get it together, Ukraine. That's just not acceptable. Well, on that note,
and a Merry Christmas to you
Merry
too.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Hey, that's going to be it for this week. Don't forget to go to our site, KrakCast.pl. If you like the show, if you like what we're doing, please think about hitting the donate button and showing your support in the form of, well, let's be honest, cash. Because that's what we do here.
We get all Ukrainian on your asses.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to check out something later this week. In a couple of days, we're going to publish the first episode of a new kind of posts for the weekend. It's called KrakCast Off Topic. We're going to kind of change the direction of the show a little bit.
We should call it KrakCast Off, actually, shouldn't we, really?
Cast Off?
Yeah, you see.
It's quite a good name. We never just settled on your name.
We didn't actually discuss it. You just started recording.
Off Topic? What a shit name. It sounds like something Kent Brockman cooked up for his new weekend special or something.
I need to record what goes on in this room 24/7. Before we started recording that episode, I put it to the group. I said, guys, what should we call this show? I got zero response.
That would involve us listening to you.
Now it's John, why did you do that? Oh, Jesus fucking Christ!
Your name, trying to get KrakCast Offs.
KrakCast Off, yeah.
Okay, let's have a vote. Put your votes up on Facebook, people.
Yeah, Facebook comments. Best idea for a new show.
Yeah, it's all for naught because I'm the one who publishes it anyway. So I'm at the keyboard when this happens. So yeah, you do what you want, but I'll decide.
Your power is free.
Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time on the news.